at the same time keeping in mind Bangladesh's interest first.
I see that you're wearing a shamag or an Arabian scarf. Is there a reason behind it?
It's just a declaration of solidarity with the people of Palestine. And you would not go, if you go to Panchgord, especially a little bit inside the city, it's very hard to believe that it's a city.
You seem to keep a very low-key social media presence. I was trying to do some research on you, but then I could not find too many contents on social media.
To go door to people. And that's exactly what we have started. But the first aspect, the first step of democracy is a vote which is going to be free and fair.
Welcome to another episode of Election Conversations. I am Zunaid Rabbani, and by now you know that I speak with MP candidates and policymakers about politics, priorities, and the road ahead. Joining us today is Barrister Naushad Zamir, an MP candidate from Panchgord 1 and one of the International Affairs Secretary from BNP. A lawyer by training and an active political voice, he's stepping into the upcoming election with vision, ambition, and ideas for his constituency. Barrister Naushad Zamir, so good to have you with us.
Thank you, Zunaid. It's my pleasure to be here at the Centrist Nation.
I see that you're wearing a shamag or an Arabian scarf. Is there a reason behind it?
It's just a declaration of solidarity with the people of Palestine. And unless they get their independence, this is what my intent is, to keep it on.
Very bold fashion statement and also a political statement. But then I'll move on to questions regarding Bangladesh. Of course, in one of the videos I saw on the internet, you spoke about a very bold vision. You want to provide at least one member from each family in Panchgord the chance to work abroad and earn remittance. Certainly a very aspiring idea. But at the same time, many countries in the world, especially countries in the Middle East, are closing their borders for Bangladeshi workers as well as for Bangladeshi tourists. Now, our green passport, no matter how much pride we take in it, is relatively very weak. Even Southeast Asian countries are putting up restrictions for Bangladeshi tourists as well as workers. Now, as one of the International Affairs Secretary of BNP, if BNP comes to power and if you are one of the key policymaker, how would you revisit these diplomatic ties? And what, according to you, are our current policymakers doing it wrong, for which the world of Bangladeshis are gradually getting smaller day by day?
Your question has two aspects of it, actually. First is with regard to the human training and the development of the Panchgord people and how we want to sort of make our youth ambitious to go abroad and do the work and earn the remittance for the country as well as their family. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is basically the Bangladesh's foreign policy in the recent past or over the last few years. The thing is, firstly, in terms of Bangladesh's foreign policy, which we believe must be, firstly, it's independent. It has to be independent, it has to be principled, and it has to be pragmatic. I think in all these three aspects, we missed out. We did not have an independent foreign policy for a long time. I mean, I don't have to explain it. You already know it. Most of the Bangladeshis know it. Anyone overseas actually also know it. So I'm not going to explain that. So we did not have an independent foreign policy. In terms of pragmatic foreign policy as well, I wouldn't say that it was very pragmatic. And because if the foreign policy was pragmatic, we would be going out, we'd be reaching out to all these nations who are trying to close their doors for us. So we have not done a good job about that. What's going to change? What's going to change is BNP's foreign policy is going to be based on the fact, on all these principles, this independent, pragmatic and principled, at the same time keeping in mind Bangladesh's interest first. That BNP is saying, Bangladesh first. Now, don't mix it up with a nationalistic view completely. It's an international view as well. If you look at any nation of the world, nobody works for the interest of any other nation. Each one is working for themselves. And that's exactly what we want to go back to. This country was doing very well. And unfortunately, our foreign policy has shrunk in a position when at one point we saw that it was relatively not a very independent, rather a codependent foreign policy. We need to break out from that. The message that we want to give to the other nations is that we do not want any hegemony. We want to stand equal with everyone and do our part as a global citizen, as a global nation.
So we're talking about global access, which automatically connects to your global exposure. You worked in Jeddah for Islamic Development Bank. You're also an Ivy League graduate. Now, not too many electoral candidates boast of such academic and professional experience. So definitely that's a tremendous achievement. You also studied in Harvard and Oxford. But the lives in Oxford and Cambridge, Massachusetts are starkly different from the streets in Panchgor. Which part of your international experience and exposure is relevant on the ground? And what specific, especially I would like to harp on the point that you have studied in world-class educational institutions. What specific qualities as a candidate do you have which other candidates simply do not bring to the table?
Thank you. Well, yes, I have been privileged to go to certain institutions which are ranked very high in the world. Having said that, my beginning is Bangladesh. I have been a product of a government school. I went to Dhanmoori Government Boys' High School. Then I went to the Dhaka College. Then I went to Dhaka University, did my LLB honors and LLM. And then that opportunity to go abroad came for better exposure. That's what I tried to do. Then I did the bar. Then I went to the Islamic Development Bank where I worked. And during the COVID time, I did the MS in taxation. The point is this, that I have always been a product of Bangladesh and I always thought of Bangladesh, and the exposure and the experience that I bring in, or anyone like me who went abroad and had the exposure brings in, is that we have been exposed to better institutions, accountability, rule of law. And those are the things we need to bring back to Bangladesh. In terms of Panchgor, that my political life did not start just recently. I have always been attached to the people of Panchgor. As a young kid, I saw people from Panchgor coming in all the time. They were talking about things in Panchgor, infrastructures of Panchgor, and how to build Panchgor in a way. So those thoughts were always there. Anytime went abroad, the idea that I have to come back and I have to work for my country, it never was a thought that was sort of remote to me. It was always an issue that I would come back to Bangladesh, I would work for Bangladesh, I would work for Panchgor, and that should be the starting point.
I hope you get to fulfill your lifelong dreams. Now, your journey is shaped not only by the institutions you went to or the institutions you worked for, it's also shaped by your family history. You're the son of Barrister Zamiruddin Sarkar, the education minister. He was also the speaker of the parliament, and he served as an acting president of the Bangladesh on quite a few occasions. That is a towering legacy. Which part of your father's legacy would you like to carry forward while consciously creating a space and your own personal identity?
Well, he has always been a people's person, meaning that in whatever role he may have had, it did not stop him for a single day to keep touch with the base. His doors were always open for people. Anyone from any walk of life could always have access to him. He would do anything and everything for the people of Pontryagor and anyone who would come and visit him, requesting him whatever, he would try to help. I think the most important aspect of his career, if you tell me that of his career, what I think was most important, I would think as the education minister, he successfully implemented the free education for women program, which Begum Khaleda Zia as the prime minister was the proponent of it. And then the Open University Act, the Private University Act, those were enacted during his time. So that was very good. And also as the law minister, he tabled the bill for the caretaker government. So his legacy is actually quite strong, and it's very difficult to step in someone as powerful as his shoes, to step in his shoes. But having said that, you see, it's people understand the difference. I'm a different individual. The way he looked at things, I don't necessarily look at things in that way.
And the times are different too.
And he is more of an extrovert. I am, as a politician, I am little bit on the introvert side, but I try to be upfront. I try to be very clear in my thought, and I have candid discussions with my constituents and everyone. If you want to tell me that what is going to be the difference between his act and my act, what I would say is the commonality is going to be the development of my area and the country. That's going to be, but the way we are going to work, that has to be different, and it is different. Our work style is different. Our work method is different. But then, because we are working for the same party and we are working for the same cause, a lot of it is, of course, going to be common.
Barrister Naushad Zamir, you, as you said, since your father was a politician, you grew up in a political family, which means you're very familiar with the ups and downs of the lives of a politician. But from the outside, we think it's very glorified. You're on the headlines, you're on state level, you get state level protocols and all that. Now, this is a question. Since your party is BNP, and BNP has not been in power for the last 17 years. Not only that, BNP was cornered in the last 17 years. How did you go about? And what have you learned in these 17 years, personally and politically?
As a politician, you have to be very strong in your beliefs and in your ideas. You have to be very creative. You have to also keep your calm. During the last 17 years of not very present rule of law. There was almost no rule of law in the country for the 17 years. And who are the worst sufferers? It was the politicians. It was the people who were actively in politics, and they went to jail. They were subjected to torture. They were subjected to enforced disappearance. So all these these are packed as a package probably. But having said that, this ought not to happen. When we talk about rule of law, and democracy, this is a slow process. Democracy will definitely have its hiccups. It will stabilize slowly and steadily. You see, Bangladesh was almost in a journey when it started to have its fair elections since 1990. I would not say the 1978, 1979 elections, and then you come to 1990. These elections, 1990, 1996, 2001, these three elections, we saw that people started enjoying the fact that the government had accountability. People started to understand the strength of the voting power. And when we talk about democracy, democracy is a huge concept. But the first aspect, the first step of democracy is a vote which is going to be free and fair. Now that was the first step we were on. That yes, we started to do an electoral process, basically to address the fact that when you talk about development, when you talk about democracy, when you talk about anything, this democratic process will take time. As a politician, politicians are always in the whole process of this. The others, I'm not saying the others are not, but not as directly as the politicians are. So of course, I mean, the politicians sometimes do take the glory, but at the same time they take the suffering as well.
Despite your family legacy and your personal achievement as a barrister and also your tremendous academic profile, you seem to keep a very low-key social media presence. I was trying to do some research on you, but then I could not find too many contents on social media. This is at a time when social media has become a prime political battleground. We've also seen figures like Zoran Mamdani becoming the mayor of New York by running mostly digital campaigns. And there I find you a little reserved on social media. Is that a deliberate choice? If yes, why? Or is it something that you're going to pick it up in the next couple of weeks?
It's a mix of both. As I said, that I am a little introvert as a politician. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is in my constituency, and we had done a sort of, what do you call this? The baseline study. And from our constituency, at least, I do not know about the rest of Bangladesh. From our constituency, we find that 70% of the people do not have access to the online vehicles, actually. So as a result, what we figured out was it was more important for us to go door to people. And that's exactly what we have started. Now, the fact that we are going door to door, this is something people should know. And we have started working on that. And I'm almost certain that most of Panchgor at least now know that we are trying to go door to door.
Wonderful. I hope your priority, if you're elected, should be better internet penetration in Panchgor. But that's a result. Probably the residents of Panchgor need to wait for a couple of years for that to get implemented. Now, speaking of that, if you get elected, what would be your top 3 priorities for your constituency?
As I said, human development is one of our prime goals. So I would answer your question in 2 aspects. One is the human development aspect, and the other one is the geographic Panchgor aspect. So the first part is that our target is going to be, our goal is going to be to empower the female population of my constituency. Basically, most of the female citizens at the moment are homemakers, but we have female farmers as well, we have female laborers and female entrepreneurs as well. The point is BNP has given a program of providing family card. This family card will give access to the head of the family, the female head of the family, access to grants for education, access to other benefits like health access. So we are going to empower them first with this card, which will actually help them to better their life. So that's going to be the first aspect of it. Second priority is going to be the farmers. We have different type of crops in Panchgor, like tea farmers, we have potato farmers, tomato farmers, we have bean farmers. You'd be surprised to see it's actually a lot of crops grow in Panchgor that's exported throughout Bangladesh actually. So that's going to be our second line of work where we are going to empower the farmers with farmer cards, where they're going to have access to seeds and fertilizer, appropriate fertilizer and that they need. So this is going to be the second aspect. Third aspect is going to be youth. And for the youth development, I will go back to your first question that I sort of wanted to say that I want to see one person from each family to go abroad. How are we going to help them? We are going to help them in training themselves. We are going to help them if they wish to go abroad, and if they see the opportunity, we are going to help them show the way that this is how you should do it. Because people do want to do these things, but sometimes they're not able to do it simply because they do not know the procedure. So we are going to add this factor in Panchagor through NGOs, through other consultations, that yes, you're able to do it. As I said, I mean, we want to see skilled laborers from going out of Bangladesh, from Bangladesh, not only unskilled laborers. Now we have starting talking to a German institute called Ausbilder, and then they basically train people. They do technical training for people, all kinds of technical training, starting with plumbing to becoming electricians, becoming nurses, whatever you say. So we have been talking to them. We have started talking to them, and we are trying to bring them on board to come to Bangladesh to train our youth, because their employability is like 80% to 90%. And people who graduate from their courses, they actually get employed in Europe and Germany. So this is where these are the things that we are thinking of doing. And it does not have to be a wholesale government program. If it's a wholesale government program, if I can sell this to the future government of Bangladesh, that would be great. But if not, at least if I get elected, inshallah, then I would try to do this for my constituents, that to give them the opportunity to go abroad should they want to. The other aspect of the priorities, as I was saying, was the geographical aspect of it, which is the first priority is I have committed, like in 2018, in the election manifesto that I personally had, was that we would like to establish a private university or a public university or a private medical college in Panchagor. That's going to be one of my priorities. Secondly, in terms of infrastructure, the roads in the village areas are not as great. So that's somewhere, and there's no lighting actually. Absolutely no lighting in the village areas. Very few lights. So these are the two aspects where we are going to work very hard to resolve the problem. And the third is the master plan for Panchagor city, or as we call municipality. So the master plan is important because, I mean, you would not go, if you go to Panchagor, especially a little bit inside the city, it's very hard to believe that it's a city. It looks like village. It looks like a village, not only a village, rather a slum. In most of the places, it looks like slum. The houses are cramped. There is no space for an ambulance to go. There's absolutely no space absolutely for any fire brigade to go. And then the drainage system is broken. And the traffic, I mean, it's a very small city and there is almost no cars, but still the traffic is so bad. So that's in our plan. We have a master plan in mind, and which we are working on. We are going to publish this soon. So these are the three priorities in terms of geographic Panchagor.